The station shuddered violently, throwing sparks from the ceiling and shaking loose cables that sizzled as they hit the floor. Derek Voss stumbled over the jagged metal grating, heart pounding in his chest, and yanked his helmet tighter. The emergency lights flickered, casting shadows that twisted like living creatures across the narrow corridor. Somewhere above, a deep, grinding roar made the walls vibrate. He knew the energy drones had breached the outer hull. They were coming for everything inside. A shriek echoed through the smoke-filled hall, short but piercing. Derek's stomach tightened. It was the sound of something small, terrified, alive. He spun toward the source and froze. A containment pod had shattered, glass fragments hovering mid-air in the zero-gravity field, and inside, a tiny creature glowed with blue-green light. Its scales shimmered like liquid metal, delicate wings trembling. The hatchling looked almost human in its fear, eyes wide, innocent, and completely defenseless. The alarm blared louder. Derek didn't hesitate. He dove, rolling across the floor to shield the little being from falling debris. Sparks hissed as a severed power conduit sparked near his arm, but he ignored it. The hatchling chirped, a sound that pierced through the chaos like a fragile bell. Derek's chest tightened again. He couldn't leave it here. Not like this. A shadow swept over them. One of the rogue drones, a sleek black machine with spinning rotors and glowing red optics, hovered closer, scanning the corridor with a precise hum. Its targeting sensors locked onto the hatchling, and Derek's stomach dropped. The drone's weapons charged, electricity crawling along its edges. Seconds stretched into eternity. Derek's instincts kicked in. He grabbed the hatchling and shoved it under his jacket, pressing it to his chest. Sparks flew from the drone's blasters, and he flung himself sideways just as a shot struck the wall where he had been standing moments ago. The blast shook the station, sending him sliding across the metal floor, knocking the air from his lungs. The hatchling let out a high-pitched squeak, vibrating through Derek's jacket. It was alive. It was real. And it was counting on him. He scrambled to his feet, scanning for cover. Overhead, a support beam groaned, threatening to collapse. The drone hovered closer, circling, calculating. Derek spotted a maintenance hatch. He ducked, throwing a wrench at the drone in a desperate gamble. The tool struck the hull, bouncing off with a shower of sparks, and for a heartbeat, the drone paused. That tiny moment of distraction was all Derek needed. He kicked the hatch open and dragged the hatchling inside, slamming it shut just as a second energy pulse rocked the corridor outside. Metal screeched. The lights died completely. Darkness swallowed them except for the hatchling's glowing scales. Derek sank against the cold wall, gasping for air, sweat running down his forehead. The hatchling pressed against him, trembling, yet its light flickered in patterns, almost like it was communicating. He studied it, wide-eyed. "What are you?" he whispered. The creature's tiny claws grazed his chest, sending a spark of warmth through him. Even in this chaos, he felt something remarkable. This small being trusted him completely. And in return he would protect it. The station trembled again. A low rumble from the main hall sounded different this time, deeper, heavier. It wasn't just the drones or the collapsing structure. Derek felt it in his chest, a vibration that resonated like a heartbeat. Something massive was moving somewhere nearby, and it wasn't mechanical. He froze. The hatchling stiffened against him, wings twitching, and its glow brightened, pulsing urgently. Derek realized with a sickening thrill that the danger wasn't only outside. Something else had awakened. Something alive. He hugged the hatchling tighter and whispered, "I've got you. I promise." He had no plan, no backup, no idea how they would survive. But instinct told him one thing: running wouldn't work. Fighting blindly wouldn't work. Only one thing might: acting decisively and protecting the creature at all costs. His mind raced as the corridor shook again, metal bending, sparks raining down like fireflies. Every second counted. Then came the explosion. A searing blast from the drone struck the wall behind him. The force threw Derek forward, slamming him onto the hatchling's pod. He felt the heat, the impact, the sharp edges of the broken glass pressing into his arms. The last thing he saw before blackness crept into his vision was the hatchling's luminous eyes, staring at him without fear. It wasn't just alive. It was watching him, almost assessing him. Derek's world went dark, but the faint glow of the hatchling continued to pulse against his chest. In that instant, amidst pain, smoke, and chaos, he realized something he couldn't explain. This small, fragile creature had already changed him. Something was about to begin that would test every limit he had: body, mind, courage, and heart. And somehow the hatchling seemed to know it. Above, the station creaked dangerously. Somewhere in the shadows, a new presence stirred, silent, massive and intelligent. And it was coming closer. Derek woke with a harsh cough, metal dust filling his lungs. The corridor was quiet, almost too quiet. Sparks from broken wiring dimly illuminated the space. His body ached, but his first thought was the hatchling. He felt its warmth beneath his jacket. It stirred, eyes glowing brighter as if asking, "Are you okay?" He pushed himself up, scanning the narrow hallway. The blast had torn a hole in the wall, and through it he could see the station's inner ring shaking violently. A low hum filled the air, different from before. The rogue drones had not given up. Their red sensors flickered in the distance, circling like predators. Derek pressed the hatchling closer to his chest. "We need to move," he whispered, trying to sound calm, though his heart pounded like a hammer. The creature chirped softly, almost like a nod. It moved with surprising agility, hopping onto his shoulder as if ready to guide him. He crept forward, ducking under hanging cables and smashed conduits. Every step made the metal floor groan. Sparks rained from above, sizzling against his jacket. He could hear the hum of the drones growing louder, closer. Derek's mind raced. The station's central hub contained the energy core. If the drones reached it, the blast wouldn't just destroy the station. They'd wipe out the asteroid colony in minutes. He had to stop that. Somehow. Ahead, a maintenance shaft led upward. Derek climbed with effort, the hatchling clinging to him. From above, he could see movement, shadows twisting unnaturally in the broken light. Something large and alive stirred deeper in the station. He froze. That presence from earlier hadn't left. Whatever it was, it had followed the chaos. Derek gritted his teeth. Fear surged, but he shoved it down. He had faced worse odds in training, and he wasn't about to abandon this creature. Not now. Not ever. The hatchling chirped again, and its glow flared, bathing the shaft in a soft blue light. He realized it was reacting to his heartbeat. Almost like it could feel his fear and courage. A drone appeared, gliding along the upper rail. Its targeting lasers fixed on the hatchling instantly. Derek pulled a loose cable from the wall and swung it with all his strength. It wrapped around the drone's rotors, sparking and spinning wildly. The machine crashed into the floor below, disintegrating in a shower of sparks. Derek exhaled sharply. Small victory. But he knew more were coming. The hatchling chirped again, this time a longer, melodic sound. Derek noticed patterns in its glow, pulses that seemed almost deliberate. He frowned. Could it be trying to communicate? He had no time to test it, but the realization struck him. This little creature was more than an animal. It was intelligent, aware. And maybe, just maybe, it could help him survive this nightmare. He climbed another level and found a bulkhead door. Beyond it, he could see the energy core, a glowing orb suspended in containment fields. The drones were converging there. Derek's mind raced. A direct confrontation would be suicide. But if he could use the hatchling's energy, maybe he could disable the drones long enough to escape. He knelt, examining the hatchling. Its small body pulsed in tune with the station's energy field. A spark of understanding hit him. You can interact with it, can't you?" The creature chirped in response, wings fluttering, sending tiny arcs of bioluminescence dancing across Derek's visor. His chest tightened. He didn't know how, but together they had a chance. The first wave of drones reached the energy core. Derek ducked behind a control panel, wires sparking around him. He tugged at one, redirecting the core's low-level power through the hatchling's glow. The creature's body brightened, flaring like a tiny star. One by one, the drones convulsed, their systems shorting out. Sparks flew, metal groaned, and Derek grinned through sweat and dirt. A small win, but a vital one. Suddenly, the ground shuddered violently. Derek stumbled, clutching the hatchling as the station tilted. From the shadows, the massive presence moved. A shape taller than any human, coiled and shimmering, emerged. Its form was alien, wings folded, eyes glowing faintly in the dim light. The drones fell silent as if sensing it. The hatchling chirped urgently, flaring brighter against Derek's chest. Derek froze. This was no ordinary threat. He had protected the hatchling, disabled the drones, but now something completely unknown had entered the battlefield. The station creaked and groaned. Sparks rained around them. Derek's hands tightened around the hatchling, heart hammering. We either survive this together, or we don't survive at all. A pulse of energy shot from the massive figure, striking the floor nearby. Metal twisted, flames flared. Derek was thrown back, sliding across the scorched floor. He gritted his teeth and pulled himself up, clutching the hatchling tightly. It chirped once more, almost defiantly, as if telling him, "We can do this." The human courage within him surged. Fear had sharpened his mind, not dulled it. He surveyed the broken station, the approaching figure, and the remaining drones. His instinct screamed. There was no time for hesitation. Every choice now would have consequences, every action life or death. Derek exhaled, his eyes narrowing. He lifted the hatchling, feeling its energy pulse through his hands. "Okay," he whispered, voice steady despite the chaos, "let's show them what humans can do." A shadow moved faster than he expected. The massive presence was closer now, its eyes fixed on the hatchling. Sparks flew again as debris fell around them. Derek's mind raced. One wrong move and they would be crushed. Yet he felt a strange connection with the little creature. Its energy flowed into him, sharpening his thoughts, strengthening his resolve. And then, from the corner of his eye, he saw it. Another hatchling identical to the first, trapped in a broken pod across the room. Derek froze, heart skipping a beat. More danger. More decisions. And somewhere in the station the unknown presence advanced, patient, intelligent, unstoppable. He clenched his jaw. "No," he said under his breath. "Not today. Not on my watch." And with that, he sprinted forward, glowing hatchling in his arms, toward the second pod, unaware that every step was leading them closer to something far beyond human understanding. Derek skidded across the scorched floor, clutching the glowing hatchling, his lungs burning from the sprint. The second pod loomed ahead, twisted metal and sparks threatening to collapse it completely. The hatchling on his shoulder chirped frantically, wings fluttering against his helmet. Derek's eyes narrowed. He didn't understand everything about these creatures yet, but he knew instinctively that they were connected. He could feel it in the pulsing glow against his chest. He reached the pod just as a piece of ceiling fell, smashing the control panel. Sparks erupted and smoke filled the room. Derek gritted his teeth and shoved debris aside with one hand while shielding the hatchling with the other. Inside the pod, another hatchling stirred, pale blue light flickering from its scales. Its eyes met Derek's, and in that instant he realized something astonishing. It recognized him. Not as a threat but as an ally. Before he could react, the massive presence moved again. Its form was now more visible in the smoke and sparks. Sleek, elongated, with iridescent wings folded close to its body. Its eyes glowed faintly green, scanning the room with intelligence and patience. Derek felt the hair rise on the back of his neck. This was not a mindless predator. It was calculating. And it had him and the hatchlings exactly where it wanted. The first hatchling stirred violently, its glow intensifying. Derek's chest tightened. He had to think fast. If the massive presence attacked, both hatchlings, and him, would be crushed instantly. His mind raced, scanning the broken room for anything that could help. Sparks arced from broken conduits, casting fleeting light over the debris. And then he saw it, the station's auxiliary energy node, damaged but still functional. He could redirect its energy through the hatchlings. "Okay," Derek muttered under his breath. "Let's see what you can do." He positioned the first hatchling near the energy node, feeling its tiny claws press against the metal casing. The creature's glow pulsed in response. Derek carefully adjusted the connections with the second hatchling in his other arm. Blue light flowed into the broken circuits, then shot out in bursts, interacting with the energy node. Sparks danced, arcs of electricity jumped between walls, and the massive presence froze mid-step, almost startled. Derek exhaled. Small victory. But the presence wasn't retreating. Its wings unfolded slowly, shimmering with iridescent light. It stepped closer, scanning him, the hatchlings, the room. Derek's heart pounded. He realized with a jolt that this creature wasn't attacking indiscriminately. It was observing, judging, testing. And then the unexpected happened. The hatchlings emitted a synchronized pulse of light, connecting through Derek's hands to the energy node. The pulse surged forward like a tethered current. The massive presence recoiled, emitting a sound unlike anything Derek had heard, low, vibrating, almost musical. Sparks of energy leapt between its wings and the walls, and for the first time, Derek understood. These creatures were capable of communication through energy, not words. His mind raced. If he could synchronize their pulses, he could create a diversion long enough to escape, but it required trust, timing, and absolute focus. Derek whispered, "We can do this. Follow me." The hatchlings chirped in response, and their glow intensified, pulsing with his heartbeat. His pulse quickened, and he realized their bond wasn't just emotional, it was physical, energetic. Derek took a deep breath, planted the hatchlings against the energy node again, and opened himself fully to the rhythm of their pulses. Light surged through his arms, then spread through the room in arcs, hitting the massive presence directly. It staggered back, wings vibrating, energy crackling around it. Sparks flew across the floor and a deep rumble shook the station. Derek barely kept his balance, shielding the hatchlings as debris fell from the ceiling. Then came the shock. The massive presence didn't attack. Instead, it emitted a new pulse, different from before, slow and deliberate. The hatchlings responded instantly, and the lights in the room danced like a conversation. Derek's eyes widened. It wasn't a threat. It was recognizing him and the hatchlings as something remarkable. Something worthy. His chest tightened. Derek had expected violence, but this was awe. Understanding. The creature's glow shifted to a soft, warm green. Its eyes met his, and for a fleeting moment, he felt seen in a way he had never been before. The danger was still there, the station was unstable, the drones could return, but the massive presence had paused. It was studying him, testing the connection he had formed with the hatchlings. A low creak from the station snapped him back. He had no time to marvel. Sparks rained down from above. The hatchlings chirped urgently, and Derek realized something horrifying. The station's core was destabilizing faster than he had calculated. If it exploded, no one would survive. Not him, not the hatchlings, not the massive presence. He clenched his jaw, adrenaline flooding him. He had to act, and fast. Using the last of his strength, he repositioned the hatchlings, directing their energy pulses toward the most unstable section of the core. Light surged violently, a wave of blue energy arcing through the room. The massive presence flinched but did not attack. Sparks flew, metal bent, and then silence. Derek gasped. The energy core had stabilized, the drones were offline, and the massive presence lingered, still watching. The hatchlings nestled against him, exhausted but alive. His chest heaved with relief. He had done the impossible, survived, protected the hatchlings, and temporarily neutralized the threat. And yet, a nagging unease lingered. The massive presence slowly retreated into the shadows, but its glowing eyes remained fixed on Derek. Something in that look promised more challenges, more mysteries, something far larger than he could imagine. Derek hugged the hatchlings closer, his mind racing. He had survived, but only barely. He had glimpsed the intelligence and power of a species humans barely understood. And now he knew one terrifying truth: protecting the hatchlings was not just survival. It was entering a world of dangers, tests, and choices that would push him further than he had ever been. He whispered softly, almost to himself, "We're not done yet, are we?" The hatchlings chirped in response, and their glow pulsed once, stronger, more deliberate. Somewhere deep in the shadows, the massive presence stirred again. And then, the floor trembled beneath them, not from the station, not from drones, but from something else entirely. Something coming. Derek's muscles burned as he sprinted down the warped corridor, hatchlings clutched to his chest, their faint glow lighting the wreckage around him. The station trembled violently, metal groaning as if it had its own heartbeat. The massive presence from before moved ahead, sleek and deliberate, its eyes tracking every step. Derek didn't look away, he had learned too much fear already. But instinct told him one thing clearly: running alone would get them all killed. Sparks rained from above, and a section of the ceiling collapsed behind him, sending a shockwave that threw him forward. He rolled, clutching the hatchlings tighter. One screeched in protest, its wings flaring as energy pulses danced along its scales. Derek realized with a jolt that the little creatures could amplify their glow, channeling energy not just to defend but to manipulate the environment. He had seen the massive presence hesitate once, when the pulses had surged earlier. He had to use that again. Ahead, the corridor opened into the station's main atrium. The energy core hung in the center, unstable, humming with dangerous intensity. Sparks leapt from the conduit, casting sharp shadows. Derek knew the core wouldn't hold much longer. If it erupted, the entire station would be obliterated. And if the massive presence attacked, they wouldn't stand a chance. He set the hatchlings down carefully, their small claws gripping his jacket for balance. "Listen," he said, voice steady despite the pounding of his own heart. "We do this together. Trust me." The hatchlings chirped in unison, wings flickering as their glow brightened. Derek felt a surge of something he couldn't name. Courage, yes, but more than that. A bond. A connection that went beyond instinct or logic. The massive presence stepped into the atrium, wings unfurling to their full span. Sparks arced along the walls as its energy interacted with the damaged conduits. Derek's pulse raced. Every instinct screamed danger, but he could see something in its eyes, not malice but expectation. It was a challenge. He had to act now, decisively or die. He grabbed a nearby control panel, exposing raw conduits, and directed the hatchlings to the unstable energy node at the core's base. Blue-green light pulsed from their bodies, arcing through the metal wiring, feeding into the failing system. Sparks erupted, metal twisted, and the massive presence recoiled slightly, wings beating as if resisting the surge. Derek gritted his teeth. He had one shot to stabilize the core and keep the creature at bay. He positioned himself between the massive presence and the hatchlings, extending his arms to channel the energy flow. His muscles strained, sweat stinging his eyes, but he focused entirely on the rhythm of their pulses. The hatchling's glow intensified, syncing with his heartbeat. A wave of energy shot toward the massive presence, forcing it backward. Sparks flew across the atrium like fireworks, and Derek felt the raw power singe his hands. Pain flared, but he didn't release his grip. Not now. The massive presence lashed out suddenly, claws striking the conduits. Metal twisted, sparks exploded, and Derek was thrown sideways. Pain shot through his shoulder, but he rolled and returned to the hatchlings, pressing them into the node. The creatures chirped, wings beating wildly, emitting arcs of energy that danced through the atrium. Derek felt the pulses running through him, surging in rhythm with his determination. Every fiber of his being screamed to survive, to protect, to endure. Then the unexpected happened. The hatchlings combined their energy in a brilliant burst, forming a dome of light around Derek. The massive presence hesitated, its eyes narrowing in confusion. Sparks leapt between the dome and the station's failing core, stabilizing the system in an instant. Derek gasped. They had done it, not just surviving but controlling the energy. The core hummed steadily now, less dangerous as the presence hovered, wings trembling, assessing him. He looked at the hatchlings, exhausted but alive, and felt a rush of pride. This wasn't luck. This was courage, intelligence, and trust. Humans, he realized, could adapt in ways no machine, or alien threat, could anticipate. Even in the face of the impossible, he had calculated, improvised, and acted. They had survived because of human determination, and because of compassion. He had shielded them, guided them, and earned their trust. But relief was brief. The massive presence moved suddenly, faster than he expected, striking toward the hatchlings. Derek reacted instinctively, diving in front of them. A surge of energy flared through the dome, knocking him back, and the creatures chirped desperately. Sparks rained down as metal groaned. Derek's chest heaved. He realized with a mix of awe and terror that the massive presence wasn't just testing him, it was measuring the bond between human and hatchlings. Every decision, every act of courage counted. He scrambled to his feet, lungs burning, and held the hatchlings close. "We're not done yet," he whispered, voice raw. "Stay with me. Trust me." Their glow pulsed in answer, bright and steady, and Derek felt something shift. The massive presence stopped, folding its wings, the tension in its body easing slightly. Its eyes met his, and Derek realized it understood. They were worthy. The atrium shook violently again, warning of the station's imminent collapse. Derek grabbed the hatchlings, feeling their pulses synchronize with his heartbeat. "We move now," he said. He sprinted toward a maintenance exit, dodging falling debris, weaving through sparks, the massive presence following but not attacking. Every second was a fight, every step a calculation. Survival wasn't guaranteed, but determination, human determination, was the difference. Just as he reached the exit hatch, a massive piece of the ceiling collapsed, blocking the way. Derek froze. The hatchlings chirped frantically. His mind raced. Then, without thinking, he used the last of his energy to amplify their glow into a focused pulse. The light surged, burning through the debris like a blade, clearing a path. Derek stumbled through, chest heaving, hatchlings clinging tightly. He paused at the edge of the hatch, looking back. The massive presence lingered in the atrium, wings folded, watching. Its eyes glowed faintly, almost approvingly, before it receded into the shadows. Derek exhaled slowly, heart pounding. He had survived the impossible, faced an intelligent, overwhelming threat, and protected the creatures at all costs. And yet, deep down, he knew this was only the beginning. The station was unstable, the presence was still out there, and something told him the hatchlings were just the first part of a far larger mystery. He hugged them close, whispering, "We did it, but the world isn't ready for what comes next." Outside, the void of space stretched endlessly, stars twinkling like distant promises. And somewhere, beyond human understanding, the massive presence waited, patient, calculating, and watching. Derek stumbled out of the maintenance hatch, the vacuum of space just beyond the broken station's outer wall. The stars shimmered coldly, indifferent, but for the first time in hours, he dared to breathe. The hatchlings clung to him, their glowing scales pulsing gently against his chest. He had survived the impossible, dodged collapsing metal, rogue drones, and a massive alien presence he still couldn't fully understand. And yet, the danger wasn't gone. Something lingered, something waiting. He lowered himself carefully to the narrow observation platform that jutted from the station, floating amid the wreckage. The hatchlings chirped softly, almost communicating. Derek realized with a mix of awe and disbelief that they weren't just creatures. They were intelligent, perhaps even sentient. Their tiny wings twitched, sending arcs of glowing light across the metal walkway, and Derek couldn't help but smile. Against impossible odds he had protected them. Against impossible odds they had protected him. A faint vibration ran through the platform. Derek froze, pulse quickening. The massive presence from the atrium appeared at the far edge of the station, hovering silently. Its wings were folded, but the glow in its eyes burned brightly, steady. Derek's heart skipped a beat. For a moment he expected it to attack again. Instead it remained still, observing. Patient. Calculating. And then, something incredible happened. It lowered its head slightly, almost bowing. Derek's eyes widened. The creature had acknowledged him, not as prey, not as a threat, but as something worthy. He hugged the hatchlings closer, voice barely above a whisper. We did it, we survived. Together. The creatures chirped in response, their glow brightening in unison. Derek realized the bond he had formed with them went beyond instinct. It was a partnership, a connection born of trust, courage, and compassion. The massive presence's eyes lingered on them as if recognizing this connection. The station shuddered again, but this time it was less threatening, more like a reminder. Derek glanced at the energy core, still glowing faintly in the distance. It had stabilized after their combined efforts, though the structure itself was a ruin. He allowed himself a brief moment of pride. He had faced impossible odds, relied on intelligence, bravery, and quick thinking, and it had been enough. Humanity, he realized, could shine even in the darkest, most dangerous corners of the universe. But there was no time to linger. He turned, scanning the station's remains for a safe path back to the shuttle. His mind worked quickly. The debris field was treacherous, and one wrong move could send them plummeting into the void. The hatchlings fluttered nervously, sensing the instability. Derek adjusted his grip, murmuring reassurances. I've got you. We're going home. As they navigated the broken corridors, a sudden flicker of light caught Derek's eye. One of the hatchlings chirped sharply, wings flaring. He froze and his stomach dropped. Across the platform he saw faint, greenish symbols etched into the metal wall, glowing briefly then vanishing. He recognized them from the alien markings near the energy core. His pulse raced. These weren't random patterns. They were a form of communication, an acknowledgement of the bond he had formed with the hatchlings, an honor of some kind that humans had never received before. Derek felt a thrill of disbelief and pride. He had survived, yes, but more than that, he had been recognized. By a species humans barely understood, by a massive presence beyond comprehension, and by the creatures he had protected. Humanity had shown. His courage, intelligence, and compassion had mattered. For the first time in his life he felt truly seen, not just as a human but as something capable of greatness. He moved toward the shuttle, hatchlings glowing softly against his chest, when one of them chirped louder, wings spreading. A small pulse of light shot from its body, forming a faint pattern in the air. Derek's eyes widened. It wasn't just a display, it was a signal. He glanced at the stars beyond the station. Something was coming. Something vast, beyond anything he had faced yet. And the hatchlings seemed to sense it, ready to guide him, ready to fight if necessary. Derek took a deep breath, tightening his grip on the hatchlings. Then we'll face it, he whispered. Together. He had no idea what awaited, but he knew one thing. Humans had survived impossible odds before, and they could do it again. Courage, intelligence, empathy, determination. These were weapons far more powerful than any blaster or shield. And he would wield them to protect these creatures whatever came next. The massive presence lingered one last time, hovering at the edge of the station, wings folded, eyes glowing faintly. Then it vanished into the shadows, leaving Derek and the hatchlings alone in the wreckage. The station creaked, sparks flew, and the stars beyond stretched endlessly, silent, distant, and full of possibilities. Derek climbed into the shuttle, hatchlings secure in a padded container he fashioned from spare equipment. He set the engines to stabilize orbit, glancing once more at the ruined station. The creatures chirped softly, their glow pulsing in a rhythm that matched his heartbeat. He smiled, chest tight with emotion. They were alive. He was alive. and together they had survived the impossible. As the shuttle drifted into open space, Derek couldn't help but feel the weight of what had just happened. Humanity had been tested, and humans had risen. Courage, intelligence, compassion, and determination had carved a path through destruction. And somewhere in the darkness beyond, more mysteries waited. More challenges. More creatures, more bonds, more opportunities for humans to shine where no one else could. He hugged the hatchlings once more, whispering softly, "This is just the beginning." And in the distance, faint lights shimmered among the stars. Signals, perhaps, of others like the massive presence, or of humans yet to be tested. Derek's eyes narrowed with resolve. Whatever awaited them, he knew this. Humans would face it and humans would endure. The hatchlings chirped in agreement, wings fluttering as the shuttle moved toward the unknown. Derek's chest swelled with determination. The adventure was far from over, but one thing was certain. They were ready. Together.